Well, hello, welcome everybody, and welcome back to another Fundamentalist Fail with your host, Mark Reed, here in the reading room. It is so good to see you all, and we have got an amazing show for you today. We have one of the classic greats, the premiere Fundamentalist Failures, which is Hovind the Lesser, or young Eric Hovind, following in his father's kind of footsteps, doing really shocking stuff. But it's so good to see you all, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome for the first time if you're here. We're here to look at the missteps and the shockingly bad takes that religious fundamentalists have on ordinary things like evolution and animals and geology and just about everything, really. Now, the last time we did Hovind, and I feel kind of a little bit nauseous saying we did Hovind, but we did Hovind, and he was doing presup, which, if you're unfamiliar with presuppositional apologetics, it really is sort of this idea that you just say, hey, we just assume that God created everything, and that proves that God created everything, which is a weird kind of apologetic, and he's not doing that today, so I was pleasantly surprised. But he was doing something that's near and dear to my heart, which is a good old Australia. Yeah, so he's doing good old Australia. So he's found Australian animals, and Australian animals are very unique. We have a very, very unique biosystem, a sort of biosphere, sort of a niche kind of thing. And that the reason because of that is that Australia was sort of disconnected from the rest of the world for a long time. Hey, it's James Apperson. I haven't seen you for ages, mate. I hope you're well. Hey, James. Good to see you. Yeah. So Australia's been disconnected from the rest of the continents. Now, you might say, oh, but, America isn't connected to Europe. Well, it kind of was by an ice bridge over between sort of Alaska and Russia for a long time. So, in the, I think it's the Barren Strait. I'd have to check that. But that was connected. So there was actually sort of one landmass and contiguous landmass, kind of. But Australia was sort of cut off, so its animals are very, very unique. And Hovind does not seem to have wrapped his head around this. He has no idea, apparently. So he's got a paradox for the evolutionary people, and I could not help but laugh when I watched this, because he is so like his father, and he does follow in his father's footsteps, because he's so confidently wrong about so much, and confidently so. But he's got on an expert, as they do. Has the Australian ecosystem bounced back after the fires? Yeah, the Australian ecosystem needs fires. It basically, there's some seeds of Australian trees that only germinate once they've been subject to heat that you only find in a what we call a bushfire or a wildfire kind of thing. So yeah, it always will bounce back, because it kind of has to put up like that. That's the way it's evolved, because fires happen all the time. And eucalyptus oil is really flammable. But yeah, it does bounce back. So what we try to do is controlled burns. So the Department of Conservation and Land Management, the government, will go out and basically burn down the forest, right? Like they will basically do controlled burns to try and burn it through so that it flourishes. Which is actually sort of reflecting what the native Australians have been doing for 40 to 50,000 years. They used to do their own controlled burns, which is wild, right? This is something that has happened for many, many, many years in Australia. And we actually learned a lot from the native Australians, the Aboriginal people, that they used to sort of set fires to encourage the forest to burn down so it wouldn't become a friggin' fireball. Yeah, but anyway, but it's a good question. Like, why does Australia burn down so much? Well, that's the way that things have evolved. but I will grab, yes. So this is Hovind the Lesser. Oh, that's not the view that I want. Is that the view that I want? Not really. Maybe that one. Yeah, that'll do. Whatever. So this is the platypus paradox for evolution, and I believe the name of the video was the platypus paradox for evolution. Look, it's long-winded, but so's Hovind, so you know it kind of goes true. Oh, really? There's something true, and same is true in the US. There are hard shell nuts that only germinate in fires. Okay, is that on the western coast, like towards California and stuff, where you have desert and heat, and you know a lot of fire, as we're all very aware. I would imagine so, but do let me know, because it's interesting, right? That the seeds that are germinate with fire are usually in the desert places with a lot of undergrowth that have a lot of fire. It's very interesting. And no, I don't think that's design. I don't think they were designed for that. I think that those are the plants that survived the fires. So, but yeah, it is actually, now that you come to say it, it is kind of sad though. The ecosystem. I mean, a lot of animals get lose their habitats and things. So it is kind of sad. It is kind of sad. But yeah, the name of the video was Platypus Paradox for Evolution. Makes evolution a stutter. Oh, I'll grab the exact name of it. Sorry, just 1 second. I'll grab the exact name. Like, basically, he's basically saying, hey, it's you know, they don't know why platypuses are like this. Wow. Oh no, it was just called the Platypus Paradox for Evolution. And how a man can be so confidently wrong is incredible. Incredible.
To you.
Yeah, and the other guy is Dr. Brian Thomas, who is a doctor, but okay, so we got to talk about this. And they have a problem over at the Institute for Creation Research and Creation Ministries of using non-experts outside, or using experts but outside their field. And this one isn't that egregious. It's still pretty bad, right? Because Dr. Brian Thomas does sort of biochemistry, right? He's a biochemist. So, you know, he will deal with things that are tangentially related to evolution, like, you know, genetics and chemical interactions in biochemistry, sure. But what he's doing speaking upon biodiversity is anybody's guess, because that's what he's going to be doing. He's going to be speaking about, oh, you know, this is a very, very unique animal. Yeah, it is a very unique animal, but we've got reasons for that. And there's a lot of unique animals in Australia. There's very, very few marsupials outside of Australia. There's like, I believe, a possum in South America is a marsupial. But apart from that, there's almost none in the world. And that sort of is it is because of Australia's isolation. We get so many of these very, very unique animals. The sort of eutherian mammals, which is like you and me, are eutherian mammals. They you know, do not have a pouch system like the marsupials, which is a sort of kangaroo pouch. They never really got a foothold on Australia, whereas everywhere else they out-evolved the marsupials. But they were brought later. For instance, dingoes, which is the Australian sort of native dog, were probably brought over by humans.
One creature stands alone as divine comedy, written in flesh and fur by God himself.
Flesh and fur by God himself. Well, God must have been drunk, because the platypus is really frigging weird. Look, I love these little guys. Don't get me wrong. I love these little guys. They are amazing. They're cute. They're dangerous. Like, the male has a venomous spur. It's one of I believe there's only 2 mammals that have venomous. The other one is the shrew, I believe, which is all the way over in Europe and the UK. this little guy is awesome. They're awesome. They're really, really unique. But unfortunately, the creationists, they don't actually investigate things, and I'll explain what I mean by that. They look at things and say, oh, that looks like a fill in the blank, that looks like a whatever. And we have a joke around these parts, if you haven't heard it, of, oh, it looks like a maple leaf. It was to hassle a debater that I've debated in the past called T-Rock, when he said, oh, but there's a maple leaf and they shouldn't exist. And he was looking at a sweet gum leaf in a fossil, and he just didn't actually investigate it, what it was. And those two families of plants are so they're not even closely related to one another. Like, you can't just look at something and say, hey, it looks like a fill in the blank, so that's what it is. And that's what they do every single time. Every single time. Yeah, we'll talk about the echidna. We'll talk about the echidna.
The platypus, a duck-billed paradox, a beaver-tailed mystery, a living riddle that makes evolution stutter. And
yeah, it really doesn't. Yeah, we know, like, yes, it's called the duck-billed platypus. It's not a duck's bill. It's got like a beaver tail. It only looks like it's like structurally. There's no real crossover between the two. That's the thing. And a phrase to remember during all of this is convergent evolution. That structures, morphology follows environment. So the morphology of an animal will start to resemble others that live in the same environment, because those structures are really useful. But we'll get more into it when he starts making really unfounded claims, because it's Eric Hovind. The Hovinds have to confidently make unfounded claims that they're 100% wrong about.
And creation sing. Guys, what scientists originally thought was just a joke ended up making a joke out of the scientists today.
Well, no, there were no scientists around when they thought it was a joke. So the story that happened was that naturalists, so the people that were doing, I mean, this is sort of back in the 18 whatevers, this is over 200 years ago kind of thing. What they did is they sent samples of the platypus back to England, right? Like, to say, hey, we found this strange and unique, but they sent tons of them. Okay, they sent, everything from kangaroos to frilled neck lizards, because that's what the English did. They basically went to a place, studied it, and killed everything, and then sent, stuff back to go, hey, I killed this with my shotgun. Yes, it's interesting. And the naturalists back in England said, nah, you're having a laugh, mate. Like, there is no way this thing exists, because it seems to be a hodgepodge. What they thought they'd done in England is they thought they had, they thought they had put together, all of these different animals to make one, just to fool them, kind of thing, because it was so unlikely. As it turns out, yeah, it's a real animal, but,
Guys and gals, we're talking about the platypus. It breaks all the rules, and
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I don't know what rules it thinks it. What rules does it break, Eric? What rules? It's weird.
Like, I don't know. It's God's quirky little signature in fur. Now, behind the humor of such a unique creature lies a whisper.
Is you saying the echidna is a joke that God is having? Like, oh, I'm gonna really make him think that life can, I'm gonna have a laugh on the humans. Let's make a platypus. It's not. Like, I don't get how that proves a God. I don't. It's really, really weird, because there is another monotreme that he's not discussing, and Jedi sort of was making a joke about it. Wow. Okay.
Whisper of genius. The kind that humbles man and absolutely glorifies the creator, God himself. Every feature, every impossible detail of this creature speaks.
Yeah, and it's actually currently endangered. So why is it not surviving very well now that sort of humans have come to Australia en masse? Unfortunately, this little guy is on the, I think it's an endangered list. Give me 1 second. I'll find out its endangered status. I do know they were doing really, really badly, which is really sad at one point. Oh, near threatened. So they're near threatened. So they're not in the threatened category, but they definitely are not least concern. So they are around. They're not in my side of Australia, only the eastern side, but they are sort of, they're not currently endangered. It definitely was that way before. If you've never heard of it, there's also the numbat that we get, which is a cute little guy, and they're very endangered. They're very endangered, protected species. So numbats are cool. Numbats are cool.
Speaks of a mind that both designs and delights in his design. You and I are about to
Oh, he delights it. Yeah, he makes them venomous because he delights in his design. What are you talking about? Like, seriously, what the hell? Ugh. This is so bad, you know.
uncover the brilliance and the humor of the creator written into one of nature's most astonishing masterpieces, and it's going to leave evolution grasping for explanations. You see, sometimes
it really doesn't. It really doesn't go grasping for explanations at all. No, it's just isolation causes things to evolve separately than other things. That's about it. Like, it just
the truth isn't just profound, it's delightfully impossible to ignore. Now, if this is your first time joining us on the Creation Today show, welcome. I'm your host, Eric Hovind, and we are so glad you're here.
Unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately not. But I prefer Eric when he's doing so there's two main schools of apologetics that are out there. They're sort of split into two main schools. There's the evidentialists, right? They're the ones that are like, look at the trees, or, you know, there's too much design, or you know, we have evidence of Jesus rising. Those are the evidentialists. And then there's the presups, who basically are like, well, you know in your heart God exists. Those are the presups. So those two main schools, I much prefer the evidentialists who will say, hey, look at, yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's not great, but it's better than precept.
Our mission is simple but powerful: to disciple the world one person at a time. And today, I'm really glad that person is you. We're here to strengthen your faith.
I don't think he's talking to me. I think he's like, look. So I don't know. I find something incredibly fake about Hovind. I really, both of them. You know, like both Eric and his father. I find them incredibly fake. Now, he's the offspring of, like, and this is, I will say something to his credit. Like, the one thing I will say to Eric Hovind's credit is he's not Kent Hovind. He's not his father. That's definitely in his favor. But I find there's something fake about both of them. You know, really, really fake. So, Eric, dude, seriously, I
answer tough questions and help you see how science and scripture fit perfectly together to reveal the glory of our Creator.
Yeah, science and scripture does not work perfectly together. It doesn't. No. Like, this is the thing. People say, oh, the Bible is completely scientifically accurate. It's not. It gets the creation thing wrong. It gets all kinds of things wrong. It says that everything was created with a mate to produce offspring. That's not right. There's animals that don't have male and female sex. You know, it gets a lot wrong as far as science is concerned. A lot wrong. And they just ignore those parts because that's what you do. You basically acknowledge the things that seem scientific, and you ignore all the rest that it gets wrong.
So throw us a comment, tell us where you're watching from, or ask a question, and get ready to be encouraged, equipped, and really inspired to stand firm on the truth. Hey, BT Dubs.
Oh, come on now. Come on now. Everybody knows that talking donkeys are scientifically proven. Come on. Come on. Look, we're not talking about that, all right? Just settle down. Settle down over there.
If you are watching on social media and you haven't already, please take just a moment to like, follow, subscribe, and share. It may seem simple, but every interaction you...
No, you seem simple. You seem simple. That seems complicated. You seem simple. Look, this is look at the trees basically. But anyway, he's just shilling for God, the same as usual. Buy my DVDs.
You take helps us share God's truth with more people around the world. Now,
and if you are enjoying the show, please do like and subscribe. I probably should do that more. Like, I mean, I will say one thing: they're very good. These creationists, they're very good at these calls for action, and they're sort of shout outs, and they're like get you on board and feel. Maybe I should take a note from this guy and sort of try and. It's weird. I find it manipulative, but they're sort of like, oh, get on board and feel the power and stuff.
I just happen to have the perfect guest joining me today as we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why a biochemist would be the perfect guest to talk about the evolutionary process of the platypus. Like, it seems at first blush to be, oh, yeah, well, he obviously has a knowledge of biology. Well, yeah, but biochemistry's a bit different. It's more related to chemistry than it is biology, right? Because you're sort of going, okay, well, what are the biological, organic, chemical reactions between things and genetics and stuff? But when you're talking about sort of animals and their niches within the ecosystem, that's not really biochemistry, okay? It's not it is related, but it's not the perfect person. The perfect person to have on would be a evolutionary biologist, right? That would be the perfect person, or at least a biologist. Somebody that has a knowledge of how animals adapt to their environment. I'm trying to be generous here because I know you'll never have a person experienced in evolution on. But it's definitely not the perfect person.
The one animal that seems like God used, I don't know, maybe a committee to create during day 6 of the creation week.
Who's the committee? A committee. A committee. What the hell?
I mean, this guy is not my guest, but the thing we're talking about is part duck, part beaver, part, I don't know, mystery. We're going to learn more about it.
Yeah, we're not, and it's not. It's not part duck, it's not part beaver, it's not, and again, the words that I want you to remember through all of this is convergent evolution. That's what you've got to remember. So, wow, and I don't know how somebody can be so confidently wrong. Confidently wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the last video that I saw of Hovind the Greater, or Hovind the Elder, or Kent Hovind, was him demanding that Eric here give back all his stuff, which is hilarious.
My guest talking about, though, is a former skeptic himself. He now takes a bold stand where faith and science connect. He is unafraid.
Yeah, faith and science don't really connect. Not the faith that the Bible sort of says, which is sort of evidences of things unseen and sort of confidence in I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically saying having a confidence in things that have no warrant for it is essentially what it was. What's the actual phrase? Give me 1 second. I always forget this. Evidence. It's evidence of things unseen. Quote. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Yeah, no. So science does not use that. Okay, so things hoped for don't have substance. Okay, they're just an abstraction. They're just an idea. So we don't have that in science. We don't hope for things in science. What science does is it analyzes the natural world around us. So we don't hope for anything. We don't go, well, I would like it to be this in science, so that's what we're going to think. That's not what we're doing. It's weird. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But like, it's just weird that a creationist would be saying so right-handed Sith, if you're just listening along and lurking, and welcome. I get, it says, I get what he means. It does not seem like it was made by way of the committee. A bit of this, a touch of that. At first glance, it looks weird. Yes, but we don't go by first glance, right? Like, this is the problem. And I must point out, Sith, like, it's just weird to hear a creationist sort of going, well, it looks like God made this via committee. Like, God's got like a homeowners association working on this somewhere. Like, it's just weird. Like, it's just strange.
And unshaken by secular scientific claims. He's got a PhD in paleobiochemistry and years of groundbreaking research with the Institute for Creation Research. He's uncovered evidence that shouts what Scripture has declared all along. In the beginning, God created. Where others see...
Yeah, and the platypus in the background, it does not shout that. It does not shout that. Actually, the platypus is sort of one of the things that evolutionary biologists, and don't get me wrong, this guy is a paleobiochemist, but when you're talking about why an animal has the features that it has, why it has the structures and the morphology, so why it looks like it does, why it has the features that it has, sort of biochemistry is not the right place to be going. Okay, and that's not to say he isn't a good biochemist, but biochemistry is sort of the organic reactions between chemicals in the body. It's not, biodiversity is not something that it really deals with. So we've got another case of them getting on an expert who's not really for what they're actually discussing. And look, I'll be honest, there's much more egregious, like, sort of examples of this, like having on, and Creation Ministry and Answers in Genesis, they do this all the time. They'll have on like a geologist and start talking about evolution and sort of use him as an expert in evolution, or a chemist, and a biochemist, and start talking about geology kind of thing. Like, they will do this a lot. But this is still not really this guy's field. It is tangentially related. So, as I said, it's not particularly an egregious example, but it is an example of, well, if you're looking to explain the biodiversity of Australia, you probably should be talking to a biologist, and probably an evolutionary biologist, but they will never have one of those on because they basically don't want evolution. Like, you'll hear this all along. They don't want evolution to be able to explain anything. You have people like Donnie going, or Standing for Truth guy saying, oh, it's a rescue device. No, we've come up these explanations through careful study. It doesn't rescue anything. It's just Australia was disconnected from everywhere else, so its biosystem is really unique. And its biosecurity laws are really strong because when a system is isolated in biology, invasive species become a problem, a real problem, because those species in that area are not equipped to deal with the invasive species. So they're a massive problem.
Fossils of dinosaurs, he sees fingerprints of divine design. Where the world preaches chance, he reveals...
Yeah, I'm not sure why a biochemist is really looking at fossils. He's a paleobiochemist, I guess, which is kind of very, very specialized niche, I would say, but sure. But, why is he looking at fossils? I'm not 100% sure. Presumably he should be looking at the biochemistry of fossils, but yeah, but whatever.
Purpose. Guys, his passion is to expose the myths of evolution and showcase the overwhelming evidence that science, when seen properly, confirms the word of God. He's a scientist, a teacher, and a fearless defender of truth.
Shouldn't he be looking for the scientific evidence and not leaping to one conclusion? Just saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome back to the Creation Today show, Dr. Brian Thomas. Dr. Thomas, thanks for joining me again, buddy.
Brother Eric, can you do my introduction every time I come speak anywhere? Woo!
Dude, I love you, man. Look, I got the privilege of hanging out with you for multiple days.
Well, I hate it when Eric bros it up. I love you, man. I love you, brother. Come on, dude. Seriously. Okay, maybe they're really good friends. I don't know. You know, I feel like saying no homo because you know, I think Eric is a bit gay. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not going to out him. Maybe. Like, look, he's got a great fashion sense. I'll give him that. I don't know. It's just weird. It's very weird.
And creating what is now Night at the Discovery Center. Look, that's you right there, Dr. Bry. That's you. And you were the perfect co-host.
That's AI me, but close.
That is it. You got a point. That is, we AI'd you here. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and that sounds like an awful movie. Has anyone seen that? I haven't seen it. Maybe I should watch it, like, and do a reaction, because that seems absolutely dreadful. I can't imagine a worse premise than, I mean, Night at the Museum was no, you know, was no blockbuster itself. I think it was sort of, you know, wasn't that a Ben Stiller movie? And not that anything's really wrong with Ben Stiller. It's just, you know, I don't think it was exactly a art, you know, high art or anything, but this seems absolutely shockingly bad. And, you know, like I said, I find something very fake about Eric. Maybe that's just me, but I wouldn't imagine I would like him in a movie.
Oh, what a fun time that was. And your full-time job there is helping people understand the truth of creation, evolution, and the science that confirms Scripture. I'm jealous of your intellect. You get to work with amazing people.
You are jealous of his intellect. That's a weird thing to say. That's a very strange thing to say. That's weird. I'm jealous of your intellect. Wow. I feel like he's just trying to, like, you know, drum him up so he's, wow, all right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, Robin, it's okay to be gay. Yeah, absolutely. It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
People there at ICR. Wow, this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for selecting the super groovy topic of the platypus. And it does fit.
Super groovy. What? He's got a thing in the background, a YouTube button in the background, which is kind of depressing, like, seriously. Ben Stiller and Robin Williams? Okay, cool. Rip Robin Williams. Gone too soon.
The bill, so to speak, of everything that you just lined up and teed it up just perfectly. This thing is a total mystery.
It's not a mystery. It's really not. Like, we found fossils. It's not a mystery. Like, this is the thing. It's sort of, we will explain things to people. And then sort of they will go, oh, well, you don't understand it. It's a total mystery. No, it's not a mystery anymore. It's not a mystery. It's not.
For evolutionary origins.
I did my research, Dr. Bry, and after doing all my research for this show, I now have one song that is constantly going through my mind, and it goes like this. There's another 104 days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it. You know which song that is?
Well, it's close to the opening theme song. Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb. Yeah, I know. Perry the Platypus.
Okay, so I am prepared to believe that Eric's research into this was watching a cartoon. I'm not familiar with this cartoon, but I am prepared to believe that Eric Hovind researched this by watching a cartoon. That seems evident to me, at least.
Man, I'm like, Agent P. I'm like, this guy really is a secret agent, and in real life, it seems like the platypus is a secret agent for God. Going, oh, some people are going to come along.
I'm sorry, because on Phineas and Ferb there is a secret agent, Agent P, who's a platypus. The platypus is a secret agent for God. Right. Yeah, no, that totally checks out. That totally checks out. Yeah, actually, now that I come to think of it, Robin is actually having a debate tomorrow. You're right, Spooky. I'm jealous of your intellect, Mark. Sorry if that's weird. Look, yeah, but here's the thing. It is a little weird, but there's stuff that I'm clueless about, right? I always remember this creationist called Dustin, right? Like, Dustin was interesting. He was a bit weird. He was very weird, but he was sort of like why do you always want to argue with us about evolution? Because they kept making evolutionary claims. They wanted to debate him. And he's like, you'll never talk about anything that I know about, like roofing. And I'm like, look, I know nothing about roofing, right? I will bow to your expertise on roofing, right? Like, I don't know anything about roofs. I don't know much about cars, right? Like, just because somebody has knowledge in one area doesn't mean they know everything. And we got to stop viewing people this way. Like, I don't see people, I just think that we sort of lessen people when we go, oh, well, they're smart and that person is not smart. And it's just lessening people. I refuse to do it. I freaking refuse. And I certainly don't feel smart. I don't, honestly. I feel stupid a lot of the time. But that's okay. Dustin Buck. Yeah, that's him. That was weird, right? Because we have these arguments about these scientific concepts. We have these arguments about, they're putting out that evolution is fake. And I'm like, no, it's really not. When you understand it, it makes perfect sense and explains a whole bunch of stuff. And, he's sort of like, well, you bring up all this evidence and stuff. Why won't you discuss anything that I know about? And it's like, because I'm not challenging what you know about. I'm not challenging it, kind of thing. So, it's weird. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange individuals I've run into in the creationist sphere. Very, very odd. Anyway. But yes, good luck on your debate, Robin. We'll try and catch it. I'm not sure what time it is. Hang on, you gave me a link, and I'll find out what time it is. Sorry, bear with me for 1 second. I'm totally unorganized this morning, as per usual. But I will find out when it is, and maybe you can drop a link. Oh, Ember's way ahead of you. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ember. Really appreciate it. Roofing or roofing? Well, it was roofing, I think. But why would I debate something that I've got no knowledge over and have never investigated? And that, my friends, is a question that these creationists should be asking. Why should you debate something that you don't have any knowledge about? And I wish more creationists would ask that, because they're always trying to debate evolution, debate cosmogony, debate all of these things, and their knowledge of it is so bad. 21 hours away. Okay, it might be a little early for me, but hopefully I can make it. What time is it? 7 in the morning. Damn, Robin. All right, 7 in the morning's okay. I can do that. And it is live in 21 hours. And the topic is, was America founded on Christianity? Yeah, so Robin's doing a political debate. To be honest with you, I sent her a message. I am so surprised that those cowards from what are they called? I've forgotten their name. I had the video here for a second. Proverbs guys, that's right. It's Proverbs guys. I'm amazed they actually stepped up to debate anybody. Like they really just lurk in their little dark corner of the internet and call people names. It's kind of wild.
And say evolution happened, and I am going to destroy that idea. So I think it's fantastic.
Look, if you haven't figured it out, Eric is destroying nothing. He's destroying nothing. He's destroying his credit. Well, I would say he's destroying his credibility, but that was destroyed years ago. So no.
Yeah, it is. Yep. The platypus is so cool. I've never seen one, but I plan to see one next year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely an expert in this animal. I've never seen one, but I plan to next year. Obviously an expert in his field. Yeah, I'm in WA though, probing. I'm in Western Australia, so I am in the future for you as well.
Got plans in the works, but fortunately
I have seen a platypus in the zoo, but only in the zoo. I've never seen one in the wild because they're not in my area, but I have seen one in the zoo. But at least, I feel like my knowledge is better because at least I've seen one of them. Like, how can you be an expert in an animal that you've never actually seen in the wild? I don't know. It's wild, right? Like, wow.
We have videos, we have YouTubes, we have the internet.
Oh yeah, YouTube, that famously reliable source of knowledge where everything is correct and you know, true. YouTube, yes. So he is referring to his education with this particular animal as videos and YouTube.
Web, and we can learn all kinds of fascinating facts about these creatures.
Yeah, you could learn all kinds of fascinating facts about evolution too, but because that conflicts with your favorite book, you're like, no, dog, I'm not learning that. Wow.
Especially the like you suggested, the strange combination of features that are similar to not other mammals like itself, but non-mammals here and non-mammals there. And how did this all come together?
Actually, it's more indicative of evolution than it is anything else. It's actually, the platypus is used as a example of evolutionary product, right? Because of Australia's isolation, we use it as, well, this is how animals branch away from one another. You know, that's essentially what we use it as.
When I was first exposed to, you know, the idea of a platypus evolving, it was actually put to me by a friend in church, and he said, you believe in creation, huh? And he's of course grown up in the world believing in evolution and not.
Oh, he's grown up in the world. Where did you grow up? Not in the world? Did you grow up in the upside down? Where are you growing up, sir? I want to know, because if you didn't grow up in the world, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in heaven? Did you get a free pass back into Eden? Where did you grow up? I want to know. As far as I'm aware, everybody... I think he means like the church versus the world, like the spiritual world. Like, seriously, my guy, all that does is make you kind of ignorant of stuff that's happening in the world. Like, seriously.
Creation, even though he goes to church, we get more of our understanding about how things work and how things came to be from the world that we were exposed to growing up than we do from the Bible, and that's part of why we're doing this.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You can't really get your knowledge from the Bible, like, not about how the world works. No, like, but I find it weird that he's sort of going, oh well, he got his knowledge from, you know, education, and I got mine from a book, a religious text.
TV shows say, let's get back to the Bible, let's get back to good science. And so that's what I was pointing this guy toward when he said, you believe...
Let's get back to the Bible. Let's get back to... Good science is not in the Bible. No, it's not. No, it's not. In the Bible, they basically made striped goats by mating them in front of striped sticks. That's the science in the Bible. Like fairy stories, you know... That's what's in the Bible. It's mythology. It's you know, stories at best. Wow.
Creation, well, let me put this to you. How do you explain the platypus? How?
Yeah.
And I said...
And you were stumped and converted to evolution immediately for a few minutes there, I'm sure.
I was not stumped, because I had just read an article put out by a creation organization that describes what we're talking about today, how the suite of features that make up the platypus don't fit any evolutionary pattern.
Yeah, they do.
You know, it's got a duck bill, so did it evolve from a duck? It's got webbed feet like a duck, did it evolve from a duck? It's got spurs like a chicken, did it evolve from a chicken? It's got fur like a mammal, did it evolve from a mammal? It's got leathery eggs like a reptile, did it evolve from a reptile? And so that's what I asked this guy, and he goes, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, so, okay, so the first thing I want to go down is that the platypus bill is not like a duck's bill. Okay, so superficially, if you don't investigate, if you just basically take it as given that because it's a duck bill, because it looks like that, that's what it is. It's not, right? Like, a duck bill is keratin. Okay, a platypus bill is a So as it sort of says here, the platypus bill is covered by smooth skin with soft suede-like texture, and unlike a duck's bill, is quite pliable and fleshy around the edges. So it's actually a leathery sort of substance. It's not like a duck's bill. It is, in fact, more leathery and sort of not keratin. The other thing is structure is very, very different. So if we look at a platypus sort of bill here, the nostrils, and I'll just grab my texter. The nostrils are kind of around the front. That's where the nostrils are for a platypus bill, right? Like they're actually around the front of the bill. Not like a crocodile's, which is sort of on the side and the front, but in the middle and the front. And I'll show you a picture. I'll just switch back to it. So you can see that here, right? The platypus, the skull of a duck here, the nostrils are here, right? They're further back, not at the front where a platypus's would be. So it has a it's not a mosaic animal because it does not have the features of another animal. They're significantly different, significantly so. So this is sort of a case of they look at something, it looks superficially like something else, and they say, well, that's what it must be. It's not, right? And the spurs on its on the male only has venomous spurs. They're not like a chicken spurs, right? They're not. Now, the eggs are definitely leathery, like a reptile egg. Absolutely. Because if you're unaware, everything used to be coming from a reptile egg. That was the sort of, origin point of all of this. So all of these features may... And I want to also discuss the tail, for instance. A beaver tail is scaly, right? Like it has this scaly sort of hard, not plates, but there's sort of scales to it. It's very, very scaly. And it's because it's used to it needs some strength to thump down mud and sort of hit the water kind of thing. Platypus's tail isn't like that. It's actually soft and furry, and uses it to curl up, heat its eggs. Like it is very, very soft and furry. It's very unlike a beaver's tail. But if you look at it, you just will go, oh, well, that looks similar. Yeah, but because something looks similar doesn't mean it's the same thing. That is not the case. So these structures that they're seeing they're not actually the structures that they think they are. They actually have a lot more in common with the other extant monotreme, which is the echidna. Okay, this guy's the echidna, right? I believe it's a short-beaked echidna. This is the echidna. As you can see on the echidna, see where the nostrils are? Whoop, I mucked that up. Sorry, just 1 second. The nostrils are like right at the end, very, very similar to the platypus, and it has sort of a little tail. Not the same, but it's way more similar to this little guy than it is to, say, a duck or a reptile or anything of the sort, right? Both the genetic and the morphologic and sort of the actual structure is way more like an echidna than any of the other animals he mentioned, right? Like right down to and including their claws, their nose or their snout rather. All of these features are very similar to the echidna. Even though you might look at it and say, well, that echidna, that's more closely related to the hedgehog, for instance. No, it's not. Not at all, right? Just because they look similar doesn't mean they are similar. Because when you get into it, the echidna and the platypus are much more similar than both genetically and morphologically than the echidna and the hedgehog. It's much more related to the other monotremes. So they're just 100% wrong. And what they've done is look at something and make shit up. That's essentially their MO.
Yeah, think about that. That's what we're doing today, is we're thinking about that.
Well, as we go into this unique design, I am really curious, how you got an entire evolutionary worldview, which the Christian worldview is going to say, yo, the platypus stumps you guys here, and you got an evolutionary worldview, as this man originally tried to say, and they're going, ha, we've got something that doesn't make sense. And as I thought about this, I went, isn't it interesting how we humans in today's culture, we try to categorize things and make everything fit into a perfectly neat little category, and
No, we don't. I mean, we do. We try to categorize them as much as possible because it helps us understand things. But biology is, especially evolutionary biology, is notoriously messy. These separations that we're putting between species and orders and things, they're kind of, because everything is related to one another, they're kind of just, hey, we're putting a bookmark here to say at this time, that's the structure that we're calling a platypus. And because things change, for instance, there's sort of, we did find fossils for platypus, something that resembles both platypus and echidna kind of thing, a common ancestor to both of them. Now, these are obviously illustrations. I'm not saying they're the real things, but they're illustrations of what they would look like if the bones had meat on them, basically. So we find these ancient monotremes, and they called it the echidnapus, right? It shares platypus and echidna-like characteristics, right? And we found a great many of these things, which is jaws and bones and fossils of these animals that resemble both platypus and echidnas, basically. And this is what we've worked out, and this is the fossil sites, the monotreme fossil sites. Really think, and so this is the illustration that they sort of would have drawn about both of them. Just older versions of the platypus and the echidna until we get a truly mosaic animal that shares traits of both. So this is sort of how we worked out, hey, this came from a common ancestor. That's why genetically they're closer related, and that's why structurally they're more similar, because the echidna and the platypus were more related to one another than, say, a kangaroo, which is more related than, say, a cow, right? Like a kangaroo is more related to an echidna and platypus than a kangaroo is to a cow. But we're more related to the cow than we are to echidna and platypus. Like, this isn't that hard to understand. And, you know, I can probably get some pictures to help, you know, simple people understand it. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because it makes a lot of sense, kind of thing. I will grab something. I did have it earlier. Yeah, so something like this, right? You've got mammalia down the bottom, and that's all mammals, so all things that produce milk for their offspring. And I think Aunt Jo was talking about how, excuse me, how platypuses sweat milk kind of thing, but they still do have milk for their offspring. That sort of branches out from mammalia into theria, right? So theria are mammals, are sort of mammals that give live birth. They don't produce eggs, basically. I mean, they do produce eggs, just not, the eggs aren't external with a shell around them, basically. So theria are animals that give live birth. And that divided into placental mammals and marsupials. Okay, so the marsupials are the ones with the pouches, and you'll find all marsupials have pouches, whether it be kangaroo, wombat, koala, numbat, all of them do. Possums, or all of them, right? And you have placental mammals, which is dogs, horses, cats, etc. But this only happened because Australia was very isolated, incredibly isolated, and the placental mammals never actually got to Australia. Never actually got to Australia. But even earlier, it split off between therians and monotremes. Like, basically, the only two extant or still surviving monotremes are in Australia. The echidna and the platypus. They're the only two surviving, and they still lay eggs. So it perfectly explains, apart from, their ideas of why a god would basically put the only two extant monotremes, mammals that lay eggs, in Australia and Australia alone, in one corner of it, sort of thing, in one area of it, there is whimsy. God just decided to. He's having a laugh that day. That's their explanation. Ours is that Australia was geographically separated before the rise of eutherians, or mammals that give birth to live young and don't have a pouch, basically, don't have that pouch system. So those mammals, those monotremes are the descendants of animals that still laid eggs, because the reptiles turned into monotremes. That's why they lay eggs, because at one point everything laid eggs. There were no eutherians, there were no therians, there was no marsupials, there was none of these modern versions. But this arose, and there's a whole bunch of information about why they arose and what led to it. It does seem very likely that a endogenous retrovirus is responsible for it, but that's a whole other thing. But if you're rejecting the evolutionary explanation, you're really just going to say, well, God was whimsical that day, and as a flight of fancy, he just decided to. Just had a bit of a, he was drunk. He was 100% drunk, just blackout drunk, just decided to put the only egg-laying mammals in one area because, lol, humans will be confused. It's not a very good explanation.
I wondered, could we discuss that real quick? Because so many times when I'm debating somebody on evolution, it's always a definition of terms. What does evolution mean? And then it's
it's because when you go in for a debate and you say we're going to debate evolution, the common parlance when you say evolution is biological evolution, but they want to sort of recharacterize it as stellar evolution and universe evolution, and it's just like, come on, dude. We both know that the bone of contention here is biological evolution. It's just sleight of hand. It's just semantics. It's just trying to sort of say, oh, well, I can't refute evolutionary theory, I'm going to go to abiogenesis. All it is a dodge. So when I'm dealing with people like Eric Hovind or Kent Hovind or any of these people, I will make the topic of debate biological evolution, because these guys, they're just so dishonest. If you want to debate any evolution whatsoever, including stellar evolution, that's fine. Just make it clear. Just make that clear, because when you say evolution, everybody will assume you mean biological evolution.
Understanding of, oh, well, you believe in, speciation, and we're calling that evolution. I'm looking at horizontal evolution versus vertical evolution, and I'm going, guys, it seems like
there's no such thing as horizontal evolution. Like, how do you get you can't get horizontal evolution, okay? That means that, brothers and sisters pass genetics to one. There's horizontal gene transfer, right? Like, the horizontal gene transfer is when you have sort of, like I mentioned earlier, retroviruses. Like a virus infects something, you're passing the genes from one organism that had the virus to another one. Or when bacteria share genetic information, right? Horizontal gene transfer. But that's not really evolution. Evolution is the change of heritable traits over successive generations. So he doesn't understand evolution, right? He doesn't understand the principle of it, because evolution, while like sort of gene transfer can happen horizontally, evolution never is, because it's always being passed down to your descendants. You don't understand what you're talking about, Eric.
A lot of confusion over speciation, one kind or another, and who came up with this classification system, and then comparing our modern...
Linnaeus came up with that classification. Look, the Linnaean classification system, it doesn't really fit in with modern biology. It's sort of, it was formulated ages ago, and it sort of was useful for sort of categorizing animals, but it doesn't really lend itself to lineages, which what we look at now. Like, how is the lineage changing? So it's still useful, though. It's useful because it categorizes it. But when you get down to it, when we're getting down to species level, what makes a species? Well, it's sort of just a genetic diversity from one another. And it's messy, and it should be messy, because really the only difference between species is that one side branched off maybe in geographical isolation or geographical separation. Maybe there was some kind of sexual selection that made them branch off, but those things are still related. So it should be messy. What shouldn't be messy is creationism, where God created these things separate. So why is there these frigging overlaps? I don't know.
Classification system, how we try to neatly get everything to fit in these certain categories, and then comparing that to the Bible and saying, aha, see, the Bible says, bats are birds, and we know they're not. And it's like, maybe we just have a totally different system.
So in your system, are bats birds? This man makes me facepalm every time I watch him. Like, seriously, are bats birds? Do you think the bat is more closely related to, say, a sea lion than a bird is? Like, how do you structure this? Like, I don't understand this, because it is so clear both from genetics and the morphology and the phenotology, the phenotype of this animal, that they are way more closely related to other mammals than they are to birds. I don't understand how, like, what? Does he think they're more closely related to birds? This is wild to me. Wow, Hovind, you are wild. Like, seriously, man, what the hell?
Is that helpful to try to figure that out real quick as we talk about this, or maybe it's helpful to just jump into the uniqueness of the platypus?
Well, let me just say the helpful part of what I think would help based on what you're saying.
Oh my God! Like, is he going, oh, how do I explain to this idiot that bats are not a bird and they're a mammal? Eric, why do you do this?
And I think there are. Okay, I think what you're getting at is, if we're an evolutionist, right, and like I was, and we talk about what makes this species, and what differentiates it from another species, or a subspecies, or a genus even, and how do we define what a species is? And I was taught in school as an undergraduate, the definition is up to you.
Well, no, I don't think it's up to you. I think he's sort of misrepresenting what he was probably taught. They sort of say, hey, there's a disagreement on what makes a species, and it's not really can they interbreed, because you can. There are species that can interbreed across species. It's more when you have a significant level of genetic diversity. But it's very strange, because if they were created separately, they shouldn't be able to breed at all. And if they were created separately in kinds, why do they have trouble breeding, and why do they produce sterile offspring? Evolution has an answer for that. It's because when you do get genetic differences that accumulate to a certain point, they're no longer compatible to breed anymore. Like, genetics and evolution answers that. Creationists just have to say, what, hyper-evolution? Hyper-speciation? I don't know. I'm so confused as to why.
So there's all different kind of ways to define how, what makes one species and what makes another species, and that's why the names are constantly changing in the world of biology. Yeah. And we have a similar ambiguity or reality of the situation for creation. Now,
yeah, I don't know why, because if things were created separately, why are some things more related to things than others? Why is the bat more related to other mammals than to birds? If that is indeed what you believe, which I'm not entirely convinced of that either. I'm very confused. Like, so we sort of say, hey, it's obvious that a dog is more related to a cat than it is a iguana, right? Like, we have these categorizations of relatedness. Why is that the case in creationism? Like, do you think a dog is more related to a cat than it is to a iguana, like a lizard? And why? Because if they were created separately, they should have about the same relation to one another, because they had no genetic lineage that connects them at all. And what you have to say is, well, God just made it like that. But why? Like, if they had no connection, why? Was it just God having a bit of fun, trying to convince us that, hey, dogs are more closely related to cats than they are to reptiles? I'm going to create them separately, but I'm going to make it look like they're connected for some reason.
The Bible tells us that God created creatures according to kinds. And so that's where the difference in the worldviews is. But within that kind, creatures can vary. They can express different...
Yeah, hyperevolution. Because, like, you're talking about animals that came down from the ark, because that's what these weird people think, that there was the literal ark and all the animals got off board, and then they diversified into all of the different, you know, variations on those kinds, which they don't really define what a kind is. Usually they put it about the family level, but that's got problems, because there's animals that are different families but they say are the same kind, or the genus level. It's all a mess, you know. And I think there was a that they were trying to do classification system for creationists, and it was sort of, I can't remember the name of it. They had this weird name for it. Baraminology, which is sort of, I mean, it's not, it's really weird. They call it Baramans as kinds, and they kind of try to classify it. No reputable university teaches it, because it's nonsense.
traits at different times for different reasons. And we're finding out that those differences, those trait differences, are always ornamental, never fundamental. The differences are always ornamental or adaptive, but they never make a change. Creatures never change. They're fundamental, basic creature parts.
Yeah, that's 100% wrong. There was an algae that started out as a single-celled organism, and upon introduction of a predator into their environment, they actually became a colony and then a multicellular organism. That the cells, the algae, individual single cells, each needed each other to survive. So that is a case of, like, when you're saying fundamental, I don't know what a change from single cell to multicellular would be, if not fundamental. It's certainly not ornamental, and I don't know what you mean adaptive. I don't know what you mean by that, because usually adaptation in evolutionary theory is talking about epigenetics. Like, for instance, my skin darkening in the sun, like producing more melanin, that's adaptive, right? Like, that's an adaptive trait. I can adapt to different circumstances. That's adaptation. But it's not evolution kind of thing. Not when my skin gets darker, right? Like, so when I go out in the sun, my skin gets darker because you get tanned, right? It's just tanning. The skin going from light to dark, that's adaptation, right? But it's not evolution, because I don't, like, you know, go out into the sun, have offspring, and then pass dark skin down to my offspring, right? That isn't the same thing. So he doesn't understand evolutionary theory, and he's using the terms very incorrectly.
And we see that borne out as true within, let's say, the fossil record or animals today. So look at the cat kind. We call it, we would place that under the Linnaean the classical classifications.
Belliforms, yes. But isn't it interesting that the hyena is more closely related to these guys than a dog, right? Hyenas, they're actually a Belliform. They're actually part of the sort of, you know, cat family, if you will. It's not the family, it's sort of a suborder, but or an order, but, you know, it's more closely related to cats than it is to dogs.
System under the category of family, kingdom, phylum, class.
It's really fun. This is hilarious, and I have to pause it on here. I'm sorry for pausing so much, but I have to pause it on here, because that family, Hominidae, right? And the order is primates. They absolutely do not believe that, right? They do not believe we are in the Hominidae family with other primates, right? Like, so primates would be monkeys, you know, lemurs. I'm trying to remember the different types. There's a few different types of monkeys in the primate family and associated sort of types of monkeys in the primate family. But the Hominidae is all of the great apes, right? Or all of the apes in general. Okay, so gorillas would be in the Hominidae family, and you know, actually, would it be? Aren't all the apes in Hominidae? Yeah. I'm sorry, I thought so there's 4 genus to or 4 extant, meaning still surviving genus. Pongo, gorilla, pan, and homo, which is bonobos, gorillas, chimpanzees, and us. So this is obviously a this is obviously a diagram that they've taken from a, you know, some sort of actual science book, but they don't believe in this, because if this was true, then the rest of the primates would fall within the order of primate, including us. So this is us. We're in Animalia, Chordata. Animalia because we are animals rather than plants or fungus. You know, we are in the Animalia. We are eukaryotes in the Animalia. Phylum is Chordata because we have a backbone. And thanks to Aaron Ra for sort of, he did a fantastic series of videos about this. Class is Mammalia because we are animals that have a backbone and we produce milk for our offspring. The order is primates because we are, you know, sort of have those monkey characteristics. We are in Hominidae because we are one of the great apes. Homo is the group, and then sapiens is us. This is a human, but that doesn't mean that other animals don't fall within this as well. So it's kind of hilarious that he's pointing out actual evolution.
Order, family, genus, species. So there's multiple genera and species of cats, but they're all within the family Felidae, and they go from tigers, lions, which interbreed and make tigons and ligers, true, by the way, and all the way down to house cats in size. And they have all these different coat colors and coat patterns and fur patterns, but they all maintain the same basic cat body shape, all of them, from the biggest to the smallest. And so that's just an example of, you know, how you can say from an evolutionary perspective.
Yeah, but there are significant differences. For instance, the lynx is very, very stocky kind of thing. And it's like when you're saying basic cat form, like the separation of all the cats into different species, it hasn't had enough time. But there are significant differences throughout the Feliform kingdom, or Feliform family. There are definitely significant differences. Like, for instance, you know, the tiger is very heavy and heavy set. The cheetah lacks sort of voice box characteristics, so it can't actually roar, right, while the others can. There are very, very, very significant differences between them. But why and how fast did these evolve according to you? Because this must be hyper-evolution after the flood. Like, for instance, a tiger is built for ambush predator. Like, it's not built like a cheetah. There's significant difference there.
Look at all the evolution that's occurred in these cats. But then what they do is they say, and cats connect to a non-cat somewhere in the past, we're not sure which one. And they do that with every creature that got...
Sure, and that's because we know that hyenas are very closely related to cats, but not dogs, even though it seems like they should be. It's kind of, you know, and here's the thing, that I really want to point out, and we'll go back to Australia because, hey, I like Australia. There's the thylacine, right? The thylacine, which is the sort of Tasmanian tiger, or a Tasmanian wolf, depending on what you want to call it. So what the funny thing about this, and I'll just get a picture up for you, is a good question, is what is this related to? So this is Tasmanian tiger. Unfortunately, they went extinct. This is one of the last pictures. It was a black and white picture. This has been colorized. This is one of the last pictures of the Tasmanian tiger, right? And you might go, oh, well, it's a cat or it's a dog. No, it's actually closely related to a kangaroo. It's a marsupial. It's not a cat or a dog. It's its own thing, right? So why? It's because that is not descended from a cat kind or a dog kind at all. At all. But it is more closely related to a kangaroo. Thylacine. Bit weird, right?
God made. Whereas in the creation way of looking at it, we would say God made cats to always be cats, but to express all this variation and to speciate. Yeah, that's fine. So, but what makes one variety?
And the only reason they say they stick to one kind is because they do not want to acknowledge that their book is wrong. They have to believe in Adam and Eve, the whole thing about the garden, the whole story about the world being created. That is what they have to back up. And most of the time, these people have signed statements of faith with in ICR or Creation Ministries International, and they have to back this. They have to. There's no scientific foundation, making people sign statements of faith for evolution. That's the difference here. But they do sign statements of faith for these organizations, because they want to prove that the Bible's correct. It is a religious belief. There is nothing scientific about it.
Of cat separated from a different variety of cat, if they can still interbreed, and sometimes they can no longer interbreed because God actually put in their systems that keep them from interbreeding so that they will diversify and fill different environments. Be fruitful, multiply. We consider that part of God equipping these creatures to do what He said. But the key takeaway, I would.
So the question still stands: why are some kinds of animals more closely related than other kinds? Why? Like they never answer this question. Why are some kinds of, like, if God just went, oh, well, there's this, you can go off and diversify. There's this one here, you can go off and diversify. There's this one here, you can. Why aren't they all exactly the same level of relation between one another? They've all been created separately and then told to diversify within that kind. They should all be equally related to one another, but they're not. That's the problem he has, that, say, a hyena is more closely related to cats than it is to dogs. Why? That's the question. If he created the cat kind and the hyena kind and the dog kind and then went diversify, they should all be about as related to one another. But why are they not? That this is the problem they have, and they've never explained it. They've just said, oh, well, God just decided to do it that way. It's whimsy. It's all arbitrary. It's just, that's the way He decided to do it. Why? But why?
Say is that statement about changes do occur, but they're always within ornamental or adaptive traits, never in fundamental traits. And evolutionary.
Yeah, things have fundamentally changed. Single cell to multicellularity has been observed. It's a thing that's been observed. If that's not fundamental, I don't fucking know what is, quite frankly. Like, seriously.
My evolutionary colleagues never recognize that distinction, and they don't even want to think about it.
No, they recognize the distinction and know that you're full of crap. Like, that is not a thing, right? Like, when you're saying fundamental traits, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you're saying, oh, it's just ornamental. Well, hang on a second. You had the moths, the pepper moths in England that changed color. Is that ornamental? Kind of, but it also helps them survive. So it's a fundamental camouflage trait. But you just go, oh, well, it's ornamental. But it's a fundamental camouflage trait. Like,
It's not even on their radar. They just think traits change, so you can get a worm to turn into, you know, a person. A worm turns into fish, turns into people.
No. A worm will not turn into a person. No. It's incredible he's being posed as an expert on evolution. Like, when things diversify, they don't go backwards, right? Like, so when you have, say, insects diversify from non-insects or whatever, like, they're not going to go back up the path and then down towards humans. No, they might turn into something that superficially resembles a human by some wild coincidence and convergent evolution. They might turn into something, maybe, somehow. You know, I'm really stretching this, though, like, you know, really stretching this, but it won't be a Homo sapiens, because once it has split off, it doesn't go backwards. It doesn't go back up and then down the tree. We're talking about lineages, not individuals.
And I would say, where's the, show me the evidence, show me the creature, the evidence.
Yeah, you're not wrong, probing. You're not wrong. God works in mysterious ways. Yeah, that's a total cop-out, you know, like, absolutely. But no, I get what you mean. Anytime it doesn't make any sense, it's God just, you know, hiding his work.
The fossils or creatures changing today, where they change a fundamental feature. So then we have to define what some of these fundamental features are, and I hope to get into that.
That is so profound. Honestly, I've heard that before, but I've not made that part of my vocabulary in my communication with skeptics. And if you're a creationist watching this, those would be two great terms for you to keep in mind: ornamental versus fundamental.
Yeah, don't, because nobody recognizes it in the scientific fields. Nobody recognizes. No, don't keep it in mind, please. Don't. Like, they constantly do this. They make up their own terms, like, that they think is a gotcha. And then they start to use them, and no one has a freaking clue what they're talking about. And you have to spend time working out what the hell this person is talking about. So please stick to scientific nomenclature if you want to talk about science. Because if you don't, no one has a clue what you're on about.
Because it seems clear when you state it like that. It's like, oh yeah, this is just an outward appearance change, not a fundamental change to the genetic structure of this organism, this plant.
Fundamental genetic structure. That doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? What is the fundamental genetic structure? What does that mean? Wow.
Or animal or whatever it is. So, okay. So, well, then did God make the platypi kind? What's the...
Yeah, that's actually incorrect. Look, as a youngster, I used to call it platypi all the time. That's what I thought the plural was, but it's not. I found out that later it's not. And in fairness, I am from the country that animal's from, but, like, he doesn't even, yeah.
A debate going on. We got a whole thing going on in the chat. The ladies asked the question, what's the plural of platypus? What's the plural of platypus? And somebody probably got it. Probably Nate Loper out there got it right. Says Nate got it. So do you know the plural of platypus? Can I put you on the spot and ask, do you happen to know the plural?
Okay, so this is always dangerous for the creationists, and Eric should know better. What am I talking about? It's Eric Hovind. He never knows better. If you get a fake expert in an animal like, if you're getting in a paleo, what is he? A paleo biochemist, right? Like, so he does biochemistry. He's not a biologist. He doesn't study the animals themselves. He studies biological chemistry, right? So organic chemistry, basically. So he's got a paleo biochemist in and trying to say, hey, this does not explain evolution. Explain why. And now he's put him on the spot. What's the plural of the animal that we're talking about? It's always dangerous, because he's not really an expert in platypi. It's platypuses, by the way. It's not, or platypus, like fish is the plural of fish. You can use either platypus or platypuses. Like, he's put him on the spot, and they should stop doing this. They should stop doing this, because they're not an expert in that animal. They're not. And we're going to find that out real quick.
Platypus?
I think I'm gonna let people have fun with that one.
Okay. It is in the chat. And by the way, we do want you to chat and sign up, because we've had 3 people step up to give away.
Yeah. He doesn't know. He is allegedly an expert in this animal, the platypus. He's never seen one. Okay, earlier admitted Never seen one. I've never seen one of these things, but I have seen videos and YouTube of them. And this is your expert. This is your expert. And when he says, "Oh, what's the plural?" he doesn't know. He doesn't know what the correct term for it is. He's not an expert. Buy my DVDs. He's not an expert at all. He's a guy that studies chemistry being paraded around as an expert on this animal.
You absolutely free. And if you want to get signed up for that, go to creationtoday.org/sign
I do not.
up.
I do not. Thank you anyway.
I'll let you guys debate over that while you tell us the fundamental versus ornamental with what's going on with the platypus. How do we know? If I was an evolutionist, I'd be like, did mommy duck get mad at baby or at you?
No. Like I said, that they are completely like the one's bill is keratin, one's is leathery. The platypus has a leathery bill. It's actually very, very unlike a duck's bill if you actually get down to it. You would think that a biochemist would know this, but no, apparently not. They're very dissimilar to one another. As I said, the structure is different, where the nostrils are placed at different. They're very, very different, these two things.
Duck for playing, too close to the beavers. What's going on with this guy? Okay, so how did this happen?
Well, I'm going to go in a different direction.
Okay.
Than you might expect.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, than you might expect. So let's look at a fun. Would you consider your stomach to be pretty important to your body?
Oh yes, I try to take care of it at least 3 times a day, so it's pretty important.
What would life be like if you just chopped the stomach out and you connected the pipes together and you go from mouth to intestines? Would your intestines be oh so happy? I mean, that would make things a lot faster and smoother, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to break up the food as well. And people that have had that have their stomachs removed, they have to drink their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it doesn't seem like a very healthy way to do things.
Ding, ding, ding. But the thing is, the platypus has no stomach.
What?
No stomach. But guess what? It doesn't need one. And so, from an evolutionary perspective, we're thinking like this: well, other mammals have stomachs, but the platypus.
So, Happy here, Mr. Happy Expert here, has just pointed out one of the myths of the platypus. Yes, some platypus myths, right? So this is from, I believe, hang on a sec, where am I on this one? This is from the Australian Platypus Conservancy, right? So it's basically a platypus. They're trying to conserve the platypus. So it's a biological foundation dedicated to conservation of the species. Okay, so pretty reputable, right? Like they're trying to conserve the species. They're telling, oh, sorry, everybody. I will zoom in. Some platypus myths, right? Platypus uses gravel to help mash up its food. It's true that it sheds its teeth, but it doesn't use gravel. It grinds up its prey using rough pads located at the back of its jaws. The grinding pads are made of keratin and can reduce aquatic insects, freshwater shrimps to a fine paste. The platypus doesn't have a stomach is a myth. Ding, ding, ding. So the false news that platypus lacks a stomach is based on a study that investigated the genes controlling platypus digested and concluded the platypus lacks a functional stomach. The fact is the platypus's digestive tract does include a small expanded pouch-like section where one would normally expect the stomach to be located. The platypus's stomach doesn't secrete digestive acids or enzymes, but does produce a mucus-rich fluid to assist nutrient absorption in the intestines. So it masticates its food with the grinding pad so thoroughly that it doesn't really need digestive acids, right? It doesn't need to have a large holding capacity to accommodate infrequent large meals. So that is busted. It is a myth that it doesn't have a stomach. It has a stomach. It's very dissimilar to other eutherian stomachs, but it does have one. You are a bunch of idiots. This is your expert on the case, basically saying, like, conveying an absolute myth. Congratulations, Eric. You've done it again. You've confidently wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Confidently wrong.
Platypus lost its stomach. And so that's evolution by subtraction. And that's as far as they go. And they even have gone, in 2021, they sequenced the platypus genome. And they found that it doesn't even have the gene for stomach acid. It doesn't need stomach acid. It doesn't even have a stomach. So of course it doesn't have the gene for stomach acid. So it lost that gene in its evolutionary past is how they describe these things. Okay, but imagine imagine a platypus ancestor evolving its loss of a stomach. What would
No, 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 no. It has a pouch where the stomach would be. Okay? It has a stomach. It's just not the same as other animals. So what basically would have happened is that its stomach, as it basically had food that didn't need digestive enzymes to break down. It was masticating using its, these pads, which are similar to, well, not similar, but they're sort of the evolutionary process of teeth. It would grind it into this paste. The ones that had enzymes, right, it was no longer needed. It's basically a waste of resources. So the ones that didn't have as strong enzymes and a smaller stomach probably would have done better because it's more suited to its lifestyle or how they were surviving. Over time, that would be selected for. Over a long period of time, millions of years perhaps, it would basically be selected for so much that it would lack any digestive enzymes at all. Not having digestive enzymes can be an advantage. Have you ever had heartburn? Having digestive enzymes like act up and have too much of them can be really painful and, not that nice. It can be detrimental. So that can be a factor. So if it never needed them again, right, never needed these enzymes again, the ones that didn't waste energy producing it would be selected for. Explains it perfectly. Explains it perfectly.
What would happen to that creature? You lose your stomach, then what? Guess what? You starve. The poor thing starves.
Imagine that.
No, it doesn't starve. No, because the ones that evolved into a platypus had a stomach. It's just as their survival traits changed, as their environment changed. I think that it wouldn't starve because if it would starve, it wouldn't be survived to be around. Like, this is very easy to understand. Like, it just basically had different nutrient needs, and the stomach sort of became a vestigial part of it. It's still there. It still does something. In fact, it still does the same function as a stomach. It's just, if you feed it meat, it won't be able to process it. It has to grind down insects and other food like that into a paste before it hits the stomach. So, the platypus really probably has incredibly bad digestion. Incredibly bad digestion. But it doesn't need good digestion because of its food source.
Halfway, if we can just survive and reproduce, our grandkids and great-grandkids will be able to live without a stomach if we can hold on.
We can hold on. But see, the platypus structure doesn't have a stomach, but it does have other. You mentioned that the people who have this stomach removal surgery have to drink their food. Well, that's what the platypus does. It has a grinding plate, doesn't use teeth. It uses keratin like tiny horns in its mouth, and it grinds its food. It has these big puffy cheeks, and it grinds its food until it's a smooth paste, and then it drinks its food, just like.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. No, not in the way that you think. It doesn't go straight to the intestines. Like I said, there's a very small pouch where the stomach would be. It's its stomach, and it's called the stomach, where that paste goes into, and then, like a stomach in a eutherian, it's slowly released into the intestines, being absorbed in nutrients. It's just that its meals are so infrequent that it doesn't need to be big, and it doesn't need digestive enzymes because it crushes it into a paste. It isn't missing a stomach. It's just the stomach has evolved along the needs of the organism. That's what's happened. That's all. It's not missing a stomach. It's so wild. It's so wild. It's incredible.
Like you mentioned. And so
it makes its own milkshake.
It makes its own milkshake. And so you have these integrated systems. And by the way, you also have to integrate software with your hardware, don't you? And so let's say my pre-platypus is evolving.
Platypus Platypuses are not a computer, sir. They're not a computer. They're not.
Dissolving, and it used to be able to eat food that stomach acid would dissolve, but now it's lost its stomach. It can't eat that kind of food, and so, but it still has the behavior of grab, gobble, swallow. Well, that's not going to work. It will starve. It has to have the behavior, the instinct, the innate knowledge, and someone had to have programmed it and put it in there to say, when you eat your crayfish or your worm or whatever it is they're going to eat, you better grind it into a paste in your mouth. And it has the tools to do it, it has the knowledge to do it, and it has a whole digestive system to live the way it does. And it's all integrated. And you can't build up these fundamental features, both software and hardware features, you can't build them up piece by piece. They all have to be put.
Sure you can. What are you talking about? Of course you can. Like, what are you talking about? I thought he was unqualified to talk about, the biodiversity in Australia. He's really unqualified to talk about computers. Like, please, it's a biological organism. It's not a computer. And all it is a gradual stepping down of, hey, if the only food around is insects, which there's a platypus, which, there was the echidnapus, right? Like the common ancestor between the platypus and the echidna, right, that we found fossils of. If the echidnapus, they start to grind their food and that's more efficient, then it will develop according to that, because the ones doing that will be the survivors. At the same time, if they're the survivors that grind their food because it is more efficient intake, the ones of that subset that do not have as strong stomach acids, because it takes energy to produce these enzymes. And that energy can be better served to do other stuff. So the ones that have more energy because they're not producing as much enzymes are the ones to survive. And then that cycle reinforces itself. It's not that hard to understand. It's not.
Put together. So these are fundamental features or fundamental aspects of this creature. And it turns out that once you fiddle or twiddle with these fundamental features, then you would actually break the organism. It would no longer function. It would lose a vital body system like digestion. Is this making sense?
Oh, it's powerful. I guess I've never thought of it like that. When you think of...
It's not powerful. It's just, yes, if you radically change the structure of an organism, right, it will have a really hard time doing what it's doing, yes, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about very, very, very small changes. Like if a platypus is born with a slightly larger stomach, it's not going to kill it, right? Like it will survive. Now, if a lot of platypuses need a bigger stomach, if that's advantageous and they're the ones to survive, then they will change. We know this from artificial selection. Like their idea is like, oh, well, if I take the lungs out of a creature, it's just going to die. So evolution is wrong. No one's saying that. Nobody is saying that. It's ridiculous.
It's a whole system that has to work together. So when you consider stomach, acid, teeth, knowledge, built-in ability, like the thought, the instinct to do, if you want to put the word instinct to do it, when you think of all those have, if it evolved, it had to all happen at once. And evolution says it's slow and gradual. Slow gradual doesn't account for all of this being able to happen at one time.
Well, I mean, just do the mental exercise and just try to get this creature to evolve its fundamental parts, either by swapping out parts. So anyway, it's a mental challenge that too few of my evolutionary friends are even willing to attempt. Because why? And let's get to the heart real quick. The heart issue, the heart matter, which I know you are passionate about. If we even entertain the possibility of creation, then guess who enters our hearts and enters our minds and enters our lives? The Creator himself.
Yeah, so there's a lot of creationists who still acknowledge that evolution is a thing. A lot of them. This guy was talking about them earlier. My colleague that I met at church who told me about evolution. So that's not the reason, because there's plenty of Christians that believe in evolution. So that is not the reason. We know it's not. Like, the only reason we don't know, it's because there's a mountain of evidence for one, and the other, what your evidence is my book says a thing. Like, when you actually drill down to it to get to the evidence that a God created anything, it is my book says so. And all the rest is hand-waving, misinformation. You know, he's spreading myths himself, right? And yeah, this man isn't an expert on platypuses. He has no idea about them. He's never even seen one, even in a zoo. But don't worry, he has plans to see one. Why would you trust this man? I have no idea. Because he just iterated as an expert on Hovind's show here. He just stated a common myth, a myth about the platypus that it doesn't have a stomach. He's no kind of expert.
And I know I have sins, and in my wickedness is a big affront to him because he's a holy God, and I know it, and you know it, and we all know it. And so rather than face the holiness of God and just come to him in humility and say, I am wicked, what we do is we pretend like God doesn't exist. We walk around like he never did anything. He never made the world.
Incorrect. As I said, there's Christians that believe in evolution, so that makes no sense whatsoever. There are Christians that acknowledge sin, they acknowledge all of that stuff, and they also say evolution was a thing. These people are fundamentalists. They must believe, and this man probably has signed a declaration of faith. They must have that the Bible is inerrant. It cannot be wrong about anything. So Adam and Eve, the 6-day creation, the lineages of Adam and Eve to Jesus, basically, that all has to be correct. And that rules out evolution. That is the reason why they're doing it. That is 100% the reason why they're doing it. You know, I don't believe in a God, so why would I, you know, oh, if I acknowledge a God, it has to enter my heart? I don't see why. That's not necessarily the case. A God could exist and I could still reject him. If that's the case, then if you have to accept God into your heart when you know that he exists, then how do you explain, like, you know, the devil, basically? He knows that God exists, but he doesn't accept him into his heart. I don't see why that's necessarily the case. So everything about what this guy is saying is wrong. And he's also projecting about what people think, right? Like he's sort of saying, hey, the only reason they put evolution is because they're against God. No, that's where the evidence has led us. And at least we have some evidence. We have a lot of evidence. We have fossils. We have, and all of this is just trying to undermine the scientific system because it is inconvenient for their fundamentalist view that the Bible is absolutely inerrant, and that it basically, if you read these statements of faith, it basically will say they will take the word of the Bible over what they see in the world around them. And that is really scary. That's the scary part. If I look around and see something in the world around me that disagrees with the Bible, I believe my book over reality, and that is so scary.
He never made me, and I'm just doing what I want because, you know, and so we're just making up we're making up a make-believe world, and it's our job as Christians to say, let's look at the platypus, but let's go from the platypus to the heart. And what we're saying is we're bringing these questions to light. How do you get a creature with a suite of features, all of which are required? All these parts have to be all in place all at the same time in order.
So this is a variation on what is it? The big IC one. Jesus, why have I had a mental blank? Intelligent design. Why did I have a mental blank? Intelligent design. So this is just a variation on that, you know, like, oh, this can't be a system that developed on its own. It has to have been created in full structure. Irreducible complexity is what I'm thinking of. Wow. All right. I'm losing my mind. Hovind is making me dumber, people. He is making me dumber. So irreducible complexity is basically the idea that you cannot reduce these features to more basal types. They have to have been formed all in connected. That has been proven wrong again and again and again and again, and they never acknowledge it. they sort of used to point at the eye with its nerve fibers and the optics and the retina as being irreducibly complex. You can't do it. It all has to function in between. No, we have shown how that develops from a simple sun, a light sensor into an eyeball, right? That has been shown. They used to say that the bacterial flagellum was irreducibly complex, but we've shown, even in the famous Kitzmiller versus Dover case, we have shown how a type B injectosome, a type 2 injectosome, can actually form into a bacterial flagellum. This is sort of the problem that they have, that they're basically saying, hey, these structures are all interlinked in a way that they have to be created all together at once. And it's not true. They can form as more primitive, if you want to use that word, primitive structures, and then develop over time, becoming interconnected with one another. It is all explainable.
To get this creature to even live, how do you get that one by one, bit by bit? And so pretty soon we'll find out in that conversation, won't we? If someone says, oh, it could have just happened, evolution just does it, and it's like a magic wand.
No, it doesn't just do it. So basically these more basal versions of the forms, like we've found the common ancestor, if you will, between echidna and platypus, and they have traits of both, right? But they're very small incremental changes over a long period of time. They're not just, it's not just, hey, they just develop all of this stuff at once. That nobody's saying that.
And why are they folding their arms? And why are they insisting on evolution? It has nothing to do with the evidence. It has nothing to do with the anatomy, the physiology, or the behavior that are all integrated of the platypus. It has everything to do with wickedness. So then we take the conversation and go, what are you mad at God about? You know, and then we can talk about Jesus.
I'm not mad at God about anything. I'm mad at people that believe in God trying to get their religion into schools, and basically they're damaging science. They're damaging the scientific process, which has no bias towards or against your religion and simply follows the evidence. That's what science is designed to do. That's what science does. It's how we do it. It's how my dad did it. It's science, right? Like that. You are trying to insert your religion in science. And that's not a God's fault. I don't think a God exists, so I can't be... Like, you might as well say, why are you mad at Santa Claus? I'm not mad at Santa. Santa doesn't exist to be mad at, sir. This is a common rhetoric, and all it is just rhetoric. It's just yap, 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 yap. You've got to be sinful. You've got to be mad at God because God obviously exists. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And one thing you'll notice about this is they will try to pick holes in evolution. They will, like, don't forget, they're claiming that evolution is wrong, and they're also claiming that a God created everything. What they'll do is try and pick holes in evolution. They never show you that a God created everything. Where is the evidence for that claim? It doesn't exist. He won't show it because he doesn't have it.
And we could say, did you know that he wants relationship with us even though we're wicked at heart? So anyway, you thought we'd be talking about the platypus, but I hijacked the whole conversation, didn't I?
Yeah, your frenetic, wild, random, weird, very weird preaching is just really off-putting, my guy.
Platypus to salvation, baby.
Yes.
I love it. You want proof of design and evidence that you need a savior? The platypus is a mic drop moment. Shaboom.
Yes. Yeah.
It really isn't.
Okay.
It really isn't. In fact, if anything, it does show that evolution is true because the platypus is more closely related to the echidna. Why? You guys never say. It's all random. God's just whimsical like that. He works in mysterious ways.
So I've got a list. Can I go down my list?
Please, this is good.
Okay, my list of anatomy. A platypus trait. Okay, this is a fundamental trait. Now, these aren't ornamental traits like body size or color of the fur, or big horns versus little horns, or things like that. These are fundamental traits of a platypus that are shared with very few other animals, and that are shared with some oddball animals. So you have to look way out there in God's creation.
No, why are you? This guy is so pedantic. Like, seriously, just get to the fucking list, dude.
These other creatures. Okay, ready? The duck-shaped bill. It doesn't.
Okay, so it's not even duck shaped really, because the nostrils are in the wrong position. It's got a slightly different shape. Yeah, it looks similar, but it's made out of leather and not keratin. It's completely different.
Have a duck's bill, but it has a bill in the shape of a duck's bill. So where did that come from?
Okay, so it's called convergent evolution. I told you to keep this phrase in mind. What it means, convergent evolution means that some structures that animals have evolve because they are so useful for the environment that they live in that they evolve separately, but they come out to be the same structure because it's really useful. Like the human eyeball and the octopus eyeball are different. Right, ours is kind of wired backwards. The octopus eyeball isn't. So they evolve separately, but because sight is such a useful thing, we both evolved eyeballs. Right, we both evolved eyes. The same is true with wings. Right, the bat wing and the bird wing are completely separate. They evolved separately, but because flight is so advantageous, they both evolved similar structures, but they're not the same. The same is true with basically river feeders, right? Animals that feed on the bottom of rivers. That role is taken by birds around the globe a lot. So they have duck bills. That role is taken by platypus or platypuses in Australia. Right, because that's what they feed on. They go down to the silt and they go through the silt of the bottom of rivers and ponds and what we call billabongs, which are water holes, I think you would call them, and sort of find insects and other food in the bottom of silt. So they have evolved a very similar structure, but there are key differences, and it's because it's so useful for an animal that goes through the silt of the bottom of a river or still water or whatever, or pond or whatever. Hi, Bree. Bree's awesome. Just letting you know. The monotreme snout has more in common with alligator's snout than it does with a duckbill. Yeah, and it's covered with century. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I was showing the echidna snoot, as you put it, the echidna snoot versus the platypus snoot. They are way more similar to one another than a duck's bill is. It's just that structure, that type of structure is useful, so they have evolved independently but come out looking similar. But when you when you actually drill down on it, it's not similar. The nostrils are in a different place. They're not out to the sides like alligators would be, but they are like in the middle, but way down the front. So they're unlike, sort of crocodilians or avian nostrils. They're completely different. And that is because Australia was isolated from the rest of the evolutionary process for so long. We have these things crop up, but they're similar because going through the silt at the bottom of a pond or a stream or whatever, running water or any kind of water, a duck's bill shape is really good for that. Really, really good for it. So it evolved separately in two completely unrelated organisms. Now, we see that they're similar. That doesn't mean they're related. But at the same time, we know they're not related, not because we've just decided that they're not. It's because their structures are completely different. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, river dolphins as well. Yeah.
Did it borrow that shape from ducks? Did it evolve it from ducks? I don't think so.
No one's saying it evolved from ducks, sir. No, nobody is saying that. That's the thing. Like, he's thinking, because this animal, like, people speak about mosaic forms, right? They speak about mosaic animals, which is like, animals that have traits of two different other animals. Like, for instance, Australopithecines is a mosaic. It has traits that it shares with humans and it shares with apes, like, chimpanzees and things. we're not saying that the platypus is a mosaic animal, right? No one's saying that. It doesn't have those traits that are shared. Its bill is completely different than a duck's or any kind of avian's. We're not saying it has a duck bill and, something reptilian, leathery eggs, say, instead of the hard shell eggs of birds, right? We're not saying it's a mosaic, so it's closely related to those two animals. It's just, it is a unique animal. It's not a mosaic. It's very important to understand this.
Because the duck bill is made of keratin, but the platypus bill has skin covering it,
yes.
And it's covered with electroreceptors.
Yes, like a crocodilian, and it's a lot more densely populated than a crocodilian. But crocodilian's a reptile. Guess what else lays leathery eggs? Reptiles. Yeah. So if it evolved from a reptile, like we say it did, and we say kind of birds did as well, then that would explain that, wouldn't it?
Electroreceptors are cells that detect teeny tiny electrical signals that come off of teeny tiny little animals that are in the water, and when their little animal's heart beats, it produces some electricity that the platypus bill can detect. So the platypus, when he or she goes diving and swimming, that's where they do their feeding at night, dawn, dusk, and night. They close their eyes, they close their ears, and by the way, the only animal that closes its ears is a seal. So did it evolve from a seal, where it has these little...
No, we're saying that the ability to, the structures that accomplish this are significantly different. No one's saying they evolved from seals. What we're saying is that seals and platypus had a common ancestor way back, and they evolved these traits because they are so incredibly useful for them.
It has these little ring-shaped muscles that close tightly and keep the ears closed so that when it comes out of the water, it doesn't have to shake the water out of its ears. It's all airtight underwater. And then it feels its way and it detects where it is and where the food is, all with the sensory mechanisms that are embedded in this bill. The bill has electroreceptors. It also has pressure sensors. Well, what other creature has pressure sensors for fluid to detect fluid pressure differences and electroreceptors? Well, that creature would be the paddlefish. And we have them here in Texas. We have them here in...
The paddlefish. Yeah, but they're not related to a paddlefish. I don't know, just because, it's so strange the way that he is sort of doing this. It's so weird because he's basically pointing out evolutionary traits in other animals and then saying, hey, it must have come from this thing because it has that trait. No, nobody is saying that. It's like saying, oh, well, we have eyes and so does a buffalo, so we must have evolved from a buffalo. No, nobody is saying that. If you're saying, did a paddlefish and a platypus way back in the day have a common ancestor? Yes. Yes. But that doesn't mean one evolved from the other. He doesn't even understand evolution. It's just, but just because sort of bats and birds both have wings doesn't mean that they had a winged common ancestor, though that is an example of convergent evolution. Bats evolved wings, birds evolved wings. We're not saying they're closely related to one another. Okay, nobody's saying that. So this is just a straw man. This is just a misunderstanding of the evolutionary process, and he's just running with it somehow.
Probably have them in Florida. And this paddlefish has a long paddle-shaped nose. It's not a paddle, it's a nose. And it is full of electroreceptors. And the paddlefish also eats teeny tiny little creatures based on tracking down their heartbeats, little copepods and things like that. So did it evolve from a paddlefish? Or did the paddlefish evolve from the...
They shared a common ancestor ages ago, but those traits evolved separately, but they're really, really, really useful. So the ones that could sense that had some kind of sensory organ that could actually sense things, that would have been selected for, because the ones that could find this prey would be the ones to survive. Come on, this is not that hard to understand. And when you look at the actual systems, there are significant differences between them, between the way they operate, where they're located. Like, come on, dude, this isn't that hard. It isn't.
It makes no sense. I mean, did it evolve from a fish or a bird or a mammal? I mean, it has characteristics of traits that are embedded in three completely different classes of animal: fish, reptile, and bird. And there's more.
Well, I mean, reptiles a bit different, because, you know, we're sort of saying that, hey, everything used to lay leathery eggs as reptiles, and they branched off into different orders of organism, right? So that one is a bit different, because crocodiles lay leathery eggs. They're reptiles, sure, and doesn't mean that everything today is still reptiles, but, you know, the eutherians that we have, the placental mammals that we have, are a change from laying leathery eggs. It's not that leathery eggs were not the norm at one point. The monotremes have just been isolated, and they have kept that trait. They've never been supplanted by eutherians at all. But there are marsupials around, which I believe are just therians. They're not placental mammals, but they are placental mammals, but they have a different type of placenta and a pouch system.
Oh, I can't believe this. And I got to ask. I know.
Yeah, no, I don't believe you in the slightest. I don't believe you in the slightest, because this man thought a platypus has no stomach whatsoever, which is completely a myth, completely wrong, and it's kind of embarrassing, dude.
We got to take a break because social media has to go here in just a second. But okay, my mind right away, unfortunately, does go to this crossbreeding concept. Do evolutionists actually suppose any kind of duck, beaver, seal, paddlefish, bird intermingling? Is there any?
You're an idiot. Nobody is saying that. Literally no one's saying that. Like, sometimes he is worse than his dad. Like, seriously, this is the biggest straw man I've seen in quite some time. You're an idiot.
Crossbreed, are they like, well, maybe, ba-bump, 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 and then, like, do they even suggest that?
They suggest it in such vague terms that it's like nailing Jello to the wall. So they'll say things like the venom. So the males have venom of the.
There's another one, snake venom.
Yeah, snake venom.
It's not snake venom. Oh dear, it's not snake venom. It's a different venom. Apparently incredibly painful. I was talking to somebody in the comments, and I said, has anyone ever been stung by a platypus? Like, it's not something that you would expect happens a lot. We don't really, you know, they're very rare. Platypuses are very rare, and they're very shy, and they're very, you know, but apparently a woman who was doing conservation, and apparently it's incredibly painful and can last for months. It's like, oh, that's dangerous. But yeah, it's not like snake venom. It is different. And there is another venomous mammal. It's a shrew, but it's not the same. It doesn't have a spur. It basically, its saliva, it has a venom in it, and it doesn't inject it, but it does, you know, use that bite to deliver the venom.
The males have that. So did it evolve from a snake? Did it evolve from?
No. The animal with a spur did not evolve from a snake, which injects venom through its fangs. Are you freaking stupid? Holy crap. Like, seriously.
Reptiles, mammals, roosters, fish. My evolutionary colleagues don't suggest, they don't suggest that some snake can interbreed with, you know, a mammal or anything like that. But they always throw a vague evolutionary magic wand into the mix and say, maybe they share evolutionary history.
Well, yeah, they do share evolutionary history, but these traits, except for, say, the egg laying, right? A lot of these traits were evolved separately. But the reason they look similar or superficially are similar is because that evolutionary trait is so useful that it basically got evolved separately in multiple different lineages, because it's incredibly useful.
But we want to say, what do you mean by that? Like, how would that have happened? How do you get these features from this kind of creature, from that kind of creature, and integrate them? And I got my water bottles to illustrate. And this
Lorises are venomous. Really? Really? I didn't know that. What, the slow loris? They're so cute, though. Then again, platypuses are cute as well. I always remember the slow loris, you know, like they're cool. The world's only venomous primates. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, although I am quickly reading that platypus, apparently the proteins are actually, there's some distinct proteins that snakes don't have in their venom. So it is a different venom. It's similar, but it is different. So this is convergent evolution. It's not, hey, they interbred with snakes. No. No, the loris did not bang a snake is what they're alluding to. No. No, absolutely not. And nobody is saying that they did. It's convergent evolution.
is uber simple compared to the body features. But hey, 2 water bottles.
Yeah.
And they do a similar thing. Maybe this holds water for one creature, this holds water for another creature. And so, but I need to evolve them. And so, you know what, I want to evolve this one into that one. And so I need to get the
What do you mean this one into that one? Look, the only way those water bottles could evolve is if they had children and passed those traits down to the children. That's the only way they can evolve, okay? That's the only way. Like, this man is supposed to be a scientist. Like, how are you going to get those water bottles to breed and pass traits down that are favorable to the water bottle? Okay, just say you had water bottles, right? And you took all the ones out. Just say you had a machine that they were going through. This is getting ridiculous, but just say they're going through a machine, which this machine would yeet any bottle that didn't meet a certain width, right? And you just had bottles going through. At the end of it, you wouldn't say, hey, look, they've got like bottles. So the machine here is the environment. It yeets things, and by yeets I mean kills things that aren't suited to it, right? Now, just say there's another machine that is the environment, and it's very similar, but not exactly the same. It will yeet bottles, but only ones of a different size kind of thing. But still, it has to be above a certain size, right? Like a certain size, certain width. Now, those 2 bottles, when you look at 2 bottles after they've been through those machines, they're going to be of similar width because the environment will shape them. Like, but even this is not an accurate analogy because they're not passing that width down to their offspring. Wow, we're talking about girthiness now. I feel like this has gone off the rails.
The cap off of this, and so I can start to evolve these water bottles piece by piece, and I'll just do this, right? Will this work? It won't work at all because they're both water bottles, and so you have the venom that works, you know, in the.
What are you talking about? What? How is I'm so confused. You take a cap off one bottle and put it on the other. Like, what is this supposed to be an analogy for?
Snake. It also works in the platypus, but each one of these parts has to be like, what would you have to do to change this cap to make it fit that bottle? It's similar, but it still has to be re-engineered to make it fit that creature. Same with the venom.
It doesn't have to be re-engineered. It just has to evolve over time. Like, there are other venomous mammals. They do exist. They exist. Like, just because you're ignorant of them doesn't mean that other venomous mammals don't exist. They do. And it's because venom is a really good defense mechanism. Like, making your predator sick and even kill them is a really good defense mechanism. So it has evolved multiple times. You have toad venom. You have, like, for instance, the cane toads have venom. Well, they're poisonous, so if you try to eat them, you will get sick and or possibly die. There's a lot of these venomous traits, and it's because that venom is a really good survival mechanism. So is speed. You know, like the cheetah's really fast, and so are birds. It doesn't mean that the same trait of being fast, you know, like the emu is a fast runner, right? And the cheetah is a fast runner. It doesn't mean that the emu came from the cheetah, okay? That's not a thing. Oh, boy.
Same with the stomach or the not stomach or the whole digestive system, or same with these fundamental whole suites of traits have to be changed fundamentally to get the one creature into another. And so
no one's saying it was put from one creature into another. This is ridiculous.
We've never seen nature do that, and we don't see any evidence in the fossils that nature ever did that. So what we can say with confidence is these creatures look as though they were handcrafted on purpose. And as you said in the beginning,
no, they don't look like they were handcrafted on purpose. Because if that was the case, if they were handcrafted as sort of kinds separately, then all of these kinds should have the same amount of genetic connectedness with one another. They should be related the same. There should be no reason why a hyena is closer to a cat than it is to a dog. It should be exactly the same amount of relatedness, and it's not.
The platypus in particular, said it's like God was up there going, like my friend did when he asked me, explain this. Like, I think he's telling the whole world who learns about this creature, come up with a natural explanation for this, because I've got all these different traits in one creature. And
yeah, we have a natural explanation. The monotremes, yeah. We found the link between echidna and platypus. It's not a mystery. It might be a mystery to you, but it's not a mystery to science. I'm sorry, it's just not.
And they're perfectly fitted together in this wonderful, amazing little critter.
Well, what you just said is a whole other slam dunk against evolution theory. The fact that they're looking at superficial similarities. Oh,
slam dunk? I must have missed it somehow. What?
Venom and venom. Aha. And it's like, no. Tailored venom and engineered venom and engineered venom. It's designed for that. So you're right. You can't just, like, how much engineering goes from one water bottle into the other. That cap, it's not like, oh yeah, you just keep pushing it on there and eventually it's going to fit and it's going to screw on right. It's specifically engineered for that. And just that thought on all the different characteristics of every single different animal out there, that alone screams, again, engineered.
A Hovind, it's not a Babel fish, my guy. Hopefully someone will get that reference, but it's not a Babel fish, man. It's a platypus. It shares more characteristics with the echidna than anything else. It shares more characteristics with marsupials. And the beautiful thing is, it shares more genetics with these things as well. Genetics backs us up on this one. And it shares them more with marsupials than any other therians, right? And it, it shares about the same with all the other therians, even though it, you're like, oh, well, it's really closely related to a beaver kind of thing. Yeah, but it shares exactly the same amount with a beaver that it does with a cat, basically, or roughly the same amount, or, very, very similar, because it's not on the Eutherian lineage. It doesn't follow that lineage. It's split off with marsupials, and then with marsupials, it split off. Marsupials and monotreme split off, and then it's split off from marsupials. So it will share more with echidnas, then more with kangaroos, then very, very little with dogs and cats, right? Like, it has this hierarchy. And if they were created as kinds, there is no reason why that should be the case.
Which means designed. Wow. I got to let social media go. Hey, if you guys are watching this at this point in the show, I can't help but think that you are seeing science start to point back to Scripture. I mean, that's the way it was meant to be. Science glorifies the Savior, just like Dr. Thomas was saying. So if you're tired of the lies that strip God from his own creation, from hearing that purpose is an illusion and design is an accident and life somehow came from chaos, I'm tired of that too. And for generations now, evolution has been preached as a fact, not science. But it's a faith-based thing, and it's in our schools.
It's really not a faith-based thing. This is from a lot of evidence. Yeah.
And it's left people wondering, what is the meaning of life? What are we believing in? So I want you to understand that you are more than rearranged pond scum. I mean, that theory that teaches that isn't just wrong, it's devastating to our world, to our culture, to you as an individual, and to society at large. But I got good news. This isn't the first time the truth has been buried under man's arrogance. Every time the world has tried to silence the Creator, he raises up voices to proclaim his glory again. And I'm so glad that today, through people like Dr. Thomas and the work that's going on at the Institute for Creation Research, they are revealing what God's word.
So where is the evidence that a God created these things? Like, you've basically gone, well, I don't believe evolution. Okay, you've got the argument from incredulity. Oh, I don't believe in convergent evolution. Sounds unlikely. Sounds all of this thing. Well, we've got a lot of evidence for it, but I get you're using the argument from incredulity. Where is your evidence that a God did these things? Okay, let's say evolution is completely wrong. Okay, just as a hypothetical. Let's say it is. That evolution didn't happen, it was all just created once. Where's the evidence for your God? I could say, hey, alternate theory, aliens came down and made everything. There's just as much evidence for that as there is for your God doing it, right? Because all they're saying is, hey, a book says it happened like that. It says so in my book. Okay, if I write a book that says aliens did it, we've got exactly the same evidence as one another. Whereas evolution has a ton of evidence behind it. It has all of the fossil record. It has genetics that back it up. And if aliens came down and created these things separately, they should not be more related to one another. Everything created should have the same amount of relatedness, because they were created completely separately with no connection between the other thing. So why did God do that? Maybe that's the question we demand that the theists answer first off. Why did God create these apparent hierarchical connections between all of these organisms? You know, and explain, hey, hyenas are more connected to cats than they are to dogs. But then you get, you know, a cow's more connected to them than it is a lizard. If they created the lizard kind, the cow kind, the dog kind, the cat kind, the slow loris kind, the loris kind, or whatever, all of these kinds, why are they so connected to one another?
Has told us science points to the Savior. His fingerprints are everywhere you look, even on a duck-billed, egg-laying, milk-producing marvel known as the platypus. So I want you to think about it. It really is an amazing creature designed by God to glorify God. Dr. Barr, you got more characteristics we're going to go into, right?
Yes.
Okay, this really is cool. I'd love for you to get the rest of this conversation. If you want to do that, I need you to come over to creationtoday.org. All you got to do is help us share the gospel around the world, and you can have access to this and every conversation we have.
Buy my DVDs. Yeah, I think they're done. I think they're creating, like, saving content for their thing. Fair enough. I don't. Wow, that camera. Give me 1 second. There we go. I don't think I don't think I'll be joining. I don't think they're charging money for it. I think it's a voluntary join. I'm not joining. There's no way. I think that they're sort of, they're statements of faith. And don't forget, scientists don't have to make a statement of faith. They don't have to go, oh, well, I am going to promote the truth of science, of what science says, and have give glory to Darwin for his... No, nobody has to do that. But they do in these institutions of creation research and answers in Genesis and stuff. They do have to do there. They have to give a statement of faith saying that I believe in the word of God from the Bible, and I will, back up the Bible on what it says, the inerrancy of the book. So I will not promote anything that disagrees with the Bible's reading as interpreted by their church leaders. And if you don't, correct me. Put in the comments. I never took a statement of faith when I worked there. I have heard from everybody I know. Oh, time traveler rate? I'm just about to wrap up. Ironically, the time traveler timing is terrible, but you're very, very welcome anyway. Absolutely welcome. It just means that I can't send people over to Nick. But that was Eric Hovind the Lesser, also known as Eric Hovind, getting absolutely everything wrong about platypuses because he gets his platypus information from cartoons, and I wish I was joking about that. Cartoons and people who have so little experience of the platypus that they A, have never seen one, and B, repeat well-documented myths about the platypus. Like just the biggest fail. Just colossal. Stop going to, say, I don't know, biochemists for your evolution information. Go to biologists, evolutionary biologists preferably. But of course they won't, because they don't want to know, and they never come with evidence. It's absolutely disgusting. But if you enjoyed the show as we did it, or if you're here from Nick's channel, Nick's amazing. If you want to give a like to help me out, that would be uber cool. If not, that's cool too. But yeah, I am wrapping up, so I always raid Nick when he's wrapping up, so it's nice that he's returning the favor. As I always say, be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. Be kind to the platypus, right? It's not hella endangered. It was at one point. It's not. It's sort of, but it is sort of. Our conservation status isn't great. So be kind to the platypus. Not least of all because it will sting you. And apparently, I found out this lately. It will really hurt. Yeah, and subscribe. Yeah, listen to Ember. Ember knows what's up. Thank you, Ember. And subscribe. So later on, what have we got coming up? We've got, I'm back over on Ember's channel for part 2 of the Great Capital debate between D'Souza and Destiny, which was frigging weird as hell and very strange. And we had a lot to laugh at during it, mostly D'Souza, because, wow, that guy, woof. Woof. But if you want to, Ember, if you want to throw that link in the chat, I'm more than happy for you to. I'm always happy at what you throw in the chat. I never have a problem with it. That's all good. Anyway, I will find that eventually. I will find that eventually. My apologies. I should be more organized. I never am. Oh, there it is. Scheduled. Yep. Beautiful. There we go. Fun to troll? How dare you? How dare you? Anyway, take care, and I will see you in the next one. This has been a lot of fun. Take care, everybody. See ya.